The neighborhood was quiet that summer afternoon, the kind of quiet only broken by the chirping of cicadas and the distant sound of a lawnmower. On Maplewood Lane, where the houses all looked alike and the residents prided themselves on manicured lawns, three men in matching uniforms pulled up in a dark SUV. Their patches read, HOA Security. Their badges gleamed in the sunlight. And yet something about them felt off. From behind the curtains of his modest home at the end of the street, Elias Grant watched in silence. His face was weathered, eyes sharp, movements slow but precise. To anyone passing by, Elias looked like just another old man in his 70s, a quiet, harmless widower who kept to himself. Few in the neighborhood even knew his name. But Elias was not ordinary. He had lived another life, long before Maplewood Lane, one filled with secrets, shadows, and the kind of training most people couldn't even imagine. He had trained Black Ops units, teaching younger men how to survive when survival seemed impossible. Now, standing in his living room, he watched the so-called HOA cops knock aggressively on his neighbor's door. Mrs. Callahan, a frail widow who baked cookies for every block party, answered nervously. Within minutes, the men were inside her house, demanding to see paperwork for violations. Their tone was cruel, their smiles false. They weren't protecting anyone, they were scamming her. Elias's jaw tightened. He knew a predator's eyes when he saw them. And these men had chosen the wrong street. He slipped on his cap, walked slowly across the lawn, and stood at Mrs. Callahan's gate.
He didn't speak.
He didn't threaten. He simply waited. His presence alone was unsettling, like a shadow the fake cops couldn't quite shake. One of them sneered. "Can we help you, old man?" Elias's voice was calm, almost kind. "I think you've made a mistake." The leader laughed. "We're with the HOA. Just official business." But Elias's eyes didn't waver. He studied their stances, their clipped movements, the way their hands twitched near their belts. They weren't trained professionals, but they thought they were dangerous. "Leave her house," Elias said quietly, "and no one gets hurt." The men chuckled. "What are you going to do? Call the real cops? Take a nap while we finish up?" Elias tilted his head slightly, as if deciding whether to warn them again. In his silence, there was power and authority none of them understood. Mrs. Callahan looked from Elias to the men, tears forming in her eyes. Then, one of them made the mistake of stepping forward, shoving Elias lightly in the chest. In a blink, Elias moved. His hand caught the man's wrist, twisted with surgical precision, and the man crumpled to the ground, gasping in pain. The other two froze, shock written on their faces. "Walk away," Elias said softly, "or you'll learn what real training looks like." Something in his tone, measured, lethal, certain, made the men hesitate. They dragged their groaning friend up and stumbled back to their SUV. Within seconds, the fake badges and false bravado vanished down the street. Mrs. Callahan sobbed with relief. "Elias, I didn't know what to do." "Thank you." Elias placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Kindness doesn't always look like cookies and smiles, Margaret. Sometimes, kindness is protecting your neighbors when they don't even know they're in danger." Word spread slowly across Maplewood Lane. The quiet man in the corner house wasn't just Grandpa Elias. He was the one who had stood up when no one else could. He had reminded everyone that kindness isn't weakness, it's strength in silence, revealed when it matters most. After the HOA incident, Elias returned to his life of solitude. He never bragged, never told war stories, never corrected the wild rumors that began to spread about him. But one evening, just as the sun dipped below the horizon, a knock came at his door. It was Daniel Rivers, a young man from down the block. Daniel was in his early 20s, fresh out of college, polite but visibly burdened. His eyes darted nervously, his hands shook. "Mr. Grant," Daniel stammered, I heard what you did, and I need your help." Elias studied him for a moment, then stepped aside, wordlessly inviting him in. Inside, Daniel confessed his struggle. He had been threatened by a group of men connected to a predatory loan he had taken during college. They wanted repayment he didn't have. They followed him, called him, waited outside his job. Daniel's voice cracked. I don't know who else to turn to. Elias listened quietly. Then he spoke, his voice steady. You don't need a soldier. You need someone who knows how to fight smart. I can help. Over the next weeks, Elias began teaching Daniel, not violence, but discipline. He showed him how to stand tall, how to speak firmly, how to move without fear. He taught him small tactics of awareness, how to notice exits, how to de-escalate tension, how to protect himself without ever throwing a punch. More than anything, Elias gave Daniel something no one else could: confidence. When the loan sharks came again, Daniel no longer trembled. With Elias quietly standing by his side, Daniel told them firmly he would no longer be intimidated. He had reported their actions, documented every threat, and contacted real authorities. The men sneered, but Elias's silent gaze cut through them like steel. They left, muttering under their breath, but they never came back. Daniel looked at Elias with awe. How do you do it? How do you stay so calm? Elias smiled faintly. I've seen storms worse than this, son. And storms always pass. For Daniel, it wasn't just about safety. It was about finding the courage to live without fear. Elias had helped him reclaim his life, not through force, but through presence, wisdom, and guidance. Months later, Daniel visited Elias again, this time with his parents. They brought food, gifts, and heartfelt thanks. His mother hugged Elias, tears streaming. You didn't just help my son. You gave us our family back. Elias only nodded, humility etched into every line of his face. For him, helping wasn't about recognition. It was about quietly restoring hope where it had been lost. And on Maplewood Lane, whispers grew not of fear, but of respect. The quiet grandpa wasn't just a man of silence. He was the helper no one expected, the protector every community dreams of.